Hello and welcome to this IFFR afterthought for the film Dead and Beautiful. My name is Janneke Langelaan. I'm a programmer for Film Festival Rotterdam, and it's my great pleasure to talk to you here together with David Verbeek, director of the film. David, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So, unfortunately, we cannot be together in the same space, but we are surely connected. You are all the way on the other side of the world, in Taipei, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Which is also where the film that we have just seen was shot, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right. I kind of hung around after the film.
And it's
No,
dark
I, I've,
outside.
I've been, I've been, I've been coming and going to Taiwan for many years, and I really like it here, and I'm very interested in many things here. So, well, there's always enough to do. So I basically kind of moved to Taiwan with the idea that I would spend a lot of time here, but not always. But then, of course, also the pandemic broke out, so then you have to kind of choose, like it's here or there. So for now, I chose here.
Yeah, so you prefer to travel the world or at least back and forth, but for now it's Taiwan. So when
We'll
you
see if those days return. Yes, that is possible at all. Yeah, we will
let,
see.
let's hope.
I hope so.
So when you exit your apartment, do you see any of the beautiful scenes that we just saw in your film, or was it hard to find these quite amazing places that we saw?
Um, well, I mean, of course, especially in the beginning of the movie, since the film was originally going to be shot in China, in like the big metropolises in China, like Shanghai or Shenzhen. These cities, they are so modern and so built up with such incredible speed that you can kind of feel this vibe of the change of societies very much in the air, and there really are in these cities also quite an amount of expensive cars going around, almost like in Dubai. For example, in Shenzhen, there's so many Teslas and Lamborghinis on the streets, just all around you when you're on the highway. Taiwan is not like that. So for this film, we had to kind of be careful what to show and what not to show. But it's more like in the later part of the film, where the characters dive into the city and go into this abandoned piece of real estate. That there was room to kind of show the environment the way it is here, and those alleys and those elevated highways with the scooters running under them. I mean, that's right here out my window. That's right where I live. So I guess for the middle and last part of the film, the answer is definitely yes. But for the opening, like the luxury restaurant and the club and and also the scene on the street, with the sports car driving around. I mean, there it was really a matter of being very selective, of what to show and what not to show.
Yeah, because you mentioned already that originally the plan was not to shoot the film in Taiwan, but in China.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I think that that's only one of the many things that have changed throughout the development of this film.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit on the road to coming where you are now with this beautiful finished film?
Yeah, well, I mean, the production of the film has had many incarnations and reincarnations. The film originally, the idea originally started, I would say, even more than 10 years ago, perhaps 12 years ago or something like that, where really the initial idea I had after having done films such as Shanghai Trance and Club Zeus, all in China, to do a film about the Fu or Dai, the second generation rich, and how they would kind of metaphorically, but in this film literally, wake up with fangs, becoming bloodsuckers. And this initial idea, so that was first the first incarnation. took place in a period where there was a lot of wild money in the Chinese film industry. So we got an investor on board quite quickly, and he put quite a big amount of money on the table. But it turned out quite well. In the year that followed, it turned out that the requirements would be to cast celebrities, Chinese celebrities, of a level that was kind of impossible. So it was kind of a catch-22, because the money that we would get, or the budget that we would have for the film, would never cover people that would require such a salary. Also, an interesting detail is that the definition of celebrities were basically what the amount of Weibo followers that people had. So it wasn't, there was no consideration for someone actually being an established or profound actor, but it was more like just what's the number of the followers online. So that's why we kind of stumbled upon a lot of people that were mostly in TV reality series and so on. So that was the first time, and then the second time we tried to do it in Dubai. So we were also looking in Dubai, location scouting even. There were some other censorship issues, and then the film didn't happen there in the end for many reasons. But then we tried to do it in China again, and this time the censorship situation in China changed, and the censorship became much more strict. So things that were actually possible before suddenly weren't possible anymore. So, but we didn't find that out straight away. We found that out through another, I think, like 13, 14 months of, preparing all over again and starting the whole thing again. So that was like the third incarnation of the film. And then finally we were like, okay, well, let's do it in Taiwan, because there you don't have the censorship. So then, but then we were working with funding from Taiwan, and the requirements were also to use Taiwanese actors then to secure that funding. So I had to recast the whole film for a fourth time, and that's the film that we now have. So yeah,
and you never gave up.
It's been a process. Yeah, luckily in the meanwhile, I have done a few other films. It hasn't been just this, but for the last 12 years, a big chunk of my time has been on this film. Yeah.
Well, it's quite a moment then that we're finally here to witness the birth of this film.
For sure. But it's also kind of it's also very strange that now I'm here behind my computer and I'm not there, and there is no physical premiere, and it's all quite unusual. Let's just say that.
Let's just hope that the afterlife of this film will also be at least another 12 years or so.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah.
What was it in this story that made you stick your teeth in it for this long, that you kept motivated, that made you stick to what you thought 12 years ago was such a brilliant...
I mean, I think first and foremost, it's the sense that I had, that we were doing something that was that needed to be told, because the economic inequality in the world, and also the way that the characteristics of that were symbolized by the Trump presidency, kind of made it, especially in the last 4 years, just like, well, I mean, this, we just have to make this vampirical, or this psychologically vampirical film about these people that live in this, alternate reality of wealth, and also we have to make a film that somehow, in a playful way, and in a not too direct way, but somehow tackles the issue that it's not it's not just everyone his own opinion, but it's everyone his own truth. So I wanted to do something where you could see, how segregated people are in terms of economic class, and also how alienating that can be. And even though, the people portrayed in this film are not directly like the most sympathetic characters, I do think that the film kind of depicts also the struggle that they have with things of, getting a grip of what, the reality and the emotional reality of their lives really are. So for me also, it's always been a film that kind of gives an audience a glance into, through a kind of a satirical way, of course, but into the lives of people that kind of have it all, but at the same time to see also in how they play with each other, that that's not necessarily a very desirable state to be in either. So yeah, I mean, I think throughout the years, it's always been like, this, this has to be said, and it has to be said now, and it didn't lose its over the years, it didn't become less relevant. It only became more relevant somehow. So that's why we held on, and it wasn't just me. It was also my producer, Lemming Film, that sometimes, even when I was kind of really discouraged after the budget being up to 99% and then going back to zero because the time had run out for a fund, or because all the situations I just described, that they really just wanted to really give it another life. So I can't say that I always was the strong one that was persistent. Sometimes I was also, by my production team, convinced to write the 19th or the 25th draft of the script, and then kind of mumbling and kind of I was like, all right, I'll try it like this then, but I don't see it anymore. And so it's been a very long process, not without frustration, to say the least. But in the end, I do think that the film kind of holds on to this kind of playfulness that I hoped it would have, and also finally, when we did find the circumstances that the timing and the place and the people and the budget finally all fell into place, which, like, all these circumstances that all have to fall into place for a film to actually happen. At that moment, I think myself and also the people I was working with managed to, like, flip a switch, like, okay, we all remember all these other versions that we were going to do, but now this is what we're going to do, and we're excited about this now, even though it's different than that version and that version. Maybe that thing from that version was actually better, but okay, forget about it. Now we're going to do this, and we had a lot of energy and a lot of very energetic shoots. So I mean, that's, finally you just, do the film, no matter how much history and baggage it has.
And it works.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe share something about shooting the film? What was the most fun or the most exciting scene to shoot?
Gosh. Well, I could. There's one thing that I could think of immediately, but I don't want to describe that scene, because then I kind of give away the whole. I mean, it's been it's been a nice experience for me, I have to say, somehow, to make a film that is so plot driven, because a lot of my earlier work was not so much that at all. It was much more slice of life, or it was much more poetic compilation of several stories with the city as a protagonist, or it was very psychological, very but so I mean, this film really has a very clear narrative thread, and it was just very interesting to see how all the twists and how to create a narrative that always tries to stay one step ahead of the audience. Like, you never really know precisely where this film is going up until the last moment. And I mean, just creating some of those twists also on set. I remember, when it worked out, it was definitely a lot of fun to do.
And your
Yeah.
actors, did they always know what was going to happen, or did something remain a surprise for them?
Well, okay, so there's this one moment, kind of in the beginning of the film, where Binray jumps out of the cake. So there, of course, I had to keep that as real as possible. But of course, most of the actors or most of the characters had actually been involved in planning that event. So it was just for Mason that it was something new. But of course, I couldn't hide for, Gijs Blom, the actor playing Mason, that, this was going to happen because, he's on set and we're all setting it up. So the only thing I could do was like, kind of keep secret for the first take, the exact timing of that it was going to happen, So I kind of, just had my own kind of, radio channel with the guy in the cake, like that I was going to time precisely when he was going to do it. And the cake was like, it was a big thing. There was a lot of, details on it. And, once it was destroyed, and also a lot of costumes affected by the explosion of the cake, it was like, it was one of these nights. I remember that we had to shoot like the whole goddamn thing in one night. There was no there, and the sun would come up, and there was glass all around. So it would have been, there was like a very hard limit of time. And it's a huge scene. It's a very big dialogue scene. It was even bigger than it is in the movie now. So it was like the pressure was on, and it was just kind of like, like, let's create this moment of, spontaneity and surprise of, somebody actually, pranking their friend into believing that they're dead, and then shocking them like, I'm still alive, so how did you feel, how sad were you, how good is our friendship really, I mean, how much do you really care for me, which kind of symbolizes the whole thing of the whole arc of the film in a way. It was very important. And I remember that, getting that in take one, because then of course, to set it all back up and clean everything up and do another take, I had the option to do it, but then it was kind of like this unspoken truth that, well, that basically means that you're going to have to give up on shot 18 and 19 further down the line. So that we had just one take and we did it. And yeah, I chose to, I'm not very much of a one take director. I'm more of a 20 take director, honestly. And I'm not proud of that, but that's just, I'm very slow, and I have to have time to see and reevaluate, and then I change my mind, and it's a nightmare for everyone. So, but this time, it was like, yeah, okay, this take worked. And then I look it back and look back, and okay, yeah, it's really quite okay. So let's just go on. And I think that moment also works well in the film. So there was a sense of accomplishment there. So I guess that would be a moment to.
And Gijs seemed pretty surprised,
yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say that you need quite some time to make up your mind on several levels, does that also go for which rules that you want to abide on, the existing Dracula or vampire laws, so to speak? Like, was it for you immediately clear, could your vampires be in daylight?
Yeah, well, it was of course more of it. It was always a challenge to create something where the audience would, for as long as it takes, still be in doubt whether this could actually be real. Whereas, of course, there was a limitation of things that could happen because, finally, it's not. So that's like, okay, so then what can we do? And I still remember like the like 10 years ago, like the first Chinese investor, being like, oh yeah, we really like vampires, and yeah, it's never been done before, and in China, which is weird because further down the line, other people were like, why would you want to do a Chinese vampire film? That's not part of Chinese culture. That's stupid. But then, they were somehow in an early on stage excited about kind of the mystique of it. So they came with all these ideas of like, well, can't you have like a scene in there where they like, change into bats and all that, And I was like, yeah, but how could they? So so it's this dynamic, I absolutely, I struggled with it a lot, and also, like why would they? How could they believe, since they're not stupid characters? How could they actually doubt or believe that this was actually real? So something would have to happen in the beginning that which is planned by someone, but that actually sets a kind of convincing stage of like, well, maybe, there really is something. So and those in all the reincarnations of the film, and the film taking place in China, and then the place taking place in and then in Dubai, and then in China again, and then in Taiwan, in these different places all required another core reason for why they were deceived into believing that they could be vampires. And so that also that changed from draft to draft. And it was once Romanian blood wine. Then in Dubai it was like an oil shower, in the middle of the desert. And Bin Ray would be like, "We've been bathing in dinosaur oil, dinosaur blood." It was, however ridiculous. It would have to, there had to be some kind of mechanism there. So that changed in a lot of the drafts. And finally, we were shooting in Taiwan, and there, then you look around, like, okay, so what fits this place? And of course, there is this Aboriginal population, and they have shamans, and so then I was like, okay, well, maybe these super rich kids would like to, especially after an encounter early on with a indigenous lady with facial tattoos, they would somehow be triggered to, let's do some culture shopping. Maybe I can get an Aboriginal tattoo on my wrist or something. Like these kind of lucrative ideas. And it's kind of fun to think for a group like that, because people that have all the material wealth that you can imagine, they tend to live in an experience economy. So it's totally not interesting, what kind of private jet you have or any of those things. It's quite boring to them, obviously. But
And
what
they make their own
remains
rules.
interesting, and which is also interesting to us normal people, but is like, what am I experiencing in my life? So it becomes, especially if you're on on this platform of all this abundance of wealth, it really becomes like, let's do something every weekend that we've never done before. And these ideas, they can be crazy, and it's fun to explore as a writer, um, and also, of course, later with your actors as a filmmaker. Like how this excitement is there. Oh, let's go eat an almost extinct animal. Okay, so. So all these things were, they
It
were all
sounds like
part of
there was enough
the
material to make a sequel and many other parts with this film.
I have written a sequel at some point. A
How
series, a
exciting! A
series.
whole
Yeah.
series. How exciting!
There is a concept written for a sequel, in the form of a series, and we were thinking to do it, and then that was already like 5 years ago. But then we didn't pursue that any further. I don't know. Maybe we will, if the film is successful, or God knows what. But yeah,
Well, we'll
there
start
isn't a
to
lot
see
of.
that from today on, because here it is, Dead and Beautiful. So the film is part of the Limelight section here at IFFR, which means that there is a distributor who will bring the film to cinemas in the Netherlands, which is all quite uncertain at this moment. But do you know when can we expect to see the film in cinemas?
No.
Soon, hopefully, with a big room
Yeah,
full of
yeah,
people.
yeah. As soon as it's allowed and safe to go out at night,
That remains to be
which
seen.
somehow also seems fitting for the theme of this film. But
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, as soon as safety returns to the nightly streets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I hope we get to welcome you then somewhere in the country, and hopefully at many other editions of IFFR, because you really, David, you are a regular guest of IFFR, and it would be our pleasure to see you in person again. For now, I want to take this moment to thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I can't wait to be back. Really, I mean, yeah, Rotterdam is really for me like that's my home festival. So I mean, it's it's very bizarre that now it's the 50th edition, and that that I'm not there with my film.
We feel the
But
same. Well,
in the future, I will.
definitely. Well, see you soon then. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of this online IFFR.
Thank you. I will.